Or hello, my friend. I was going to count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but then I hit the button and it was all over. So
We're just going to begin.
yes, I am welcoming my friend Kelly Wright from Missouri and or Missouri, depending on which way you like to say it.
Right.
And how do you say it, Kelly?
I say Missouri,
Uh-huh.
but I have had family members through the years call it Missouri.
Uh-huh.
And there was even one time at the Missouri State Fair, they actually had a little tallying booth where they were asking people, how do you say it? And I think actually Missouri won, but there is both. So,
That's right. Well, I was
yeah.
corrected the first time I ever visited and went to the Jesse James hideout. And I was told it is Missouri, ma'am. And so ever since I thought, well, I'll err on the side of Missouri.
Right. And probably depending on where you go in the state, there's the correct way to say it.
Uh-huh. And what I know about you is that because you're a spiritual director and a therapist and a pastor, um, and we'll talk about what you're doing right this minute. I didn't even know what to call you, doctor, spiritual director, pastor, and you said call me
Kelly.
so we'll call you Kelly.
Yes.
And what I do know with you is that there is a really open-heartedness to let people pronounce things incorrectly, and let people be with you as they are,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing. And I feel grateful during Advent to host conversations like this one
Yeah.
where I can trust that the person I'm speaking with is um, not clear,
Mm-hmm.
but but open, not fixated, but in the mystery.
Mm.
And so I'm really happy that you're here today, Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I'm with you, I feel your beautiful husband, Hartley, right behind you, even if I can't see him.
Yes, he's here, in my heart and in your heart too.
Hmm. Yeah, and in my sweetheart Scott's heart too, because they were in a small group very early on in the Transforming Center, which is where you and I met
Yes.
in community with Ruth Haley Barton,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and experienced a place where it was safe to talk about life as it is,
Yes.
and in this pandemic, the craziness of 2020, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I am always looking to engage in conversations with people who can help people see in ways they can't uh, traditionally see,
Mm-hmm.
and that they allow their perspective to be widened even though they might have a very particular perspective. And so, welcome to Advent with us here at Enneagram and Christianity and Crossroads Church. Welcome,
Mm-hmm.
welcome, Kelly.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to our conversation.
Mhm. And I told you that we've been unwrapping the presence of Christ over these days of Advent. And the day that I invited you is the day called Merciful.
Yes.
And so, as a person who identifies as an Enneagram style,
8.
the Enneagram, but when I first met you, you thought you might be an Enneagram style.
2.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought I was the textbook 2.
Uh-huh.
And then it was a conversation you and I had where you lovingly, and you just knew me enough to know that I was at a place where it was important to just sit with the possibility of being an 8, and really opened up that space of seeing that true reflection that God created me to be in, that space of being an 8, even though I'd been so conditioned to think that I truly was a 2.
Why do you think? Why do you think you were conditioned to be a two?
Yes. Well, the story I like to share as I look back is that I remember when I was 4 years old that my parents came into my bedroom and said that they were going to have a baby, that my mom was expecting a baby. And, at the time I was the only grandchild on both sides of the family. Um, I was 4 years old and I remember life when it was just me. And so my initial gut response to my parents after they told me that they were going to have a baby was, why do we need a baby? And so in holding that, that just gut response, then when my sister was born, uh, I decided pretty early on that first night when my sister got up through the night and was crying and my mom got up to feed her, that I needed to be up to help my mom. And so thinking about that and just hearing my mom and talking with my grandmother, in the days after of what a great helper I was, um, that began my journey of, okay, my role is helper.
Hmm.
And so then, seeing even in getting into the counseling field and being a professional counselor, and really, when I first engaged with the Enneagram, realizing that I was exhausted in my false self as a helper because the more I help, the more the potential is that I'll be loved and known and accepted. But it was exhausting because we know that's like filling a cup that has no bottom.
Hmm.
And so, in that conversation that you and I had, where you said, you might sit with the eight, and I think really that was the a conversation right there because I remember it was we were finishing up the celebration time at the Transforming Center, and I think you kind of said it as you were getting up and I was getting up, and I went back to my room and I was like, Lord, could this be? Or maybe how can this be? And just really feeling like that sense of, okay, in order to try to save my place or to have a place, because I felt like I was going to be replaced, that I wasn't going to have a position of importance anymore in the family, that I needed to just be a helper.
Hmm.
But to see that God and just that tenderness was bringing me back to my true self of being a reflection of His strength, and I think even mercy is really something that I hold an awareness of. And I think too, at the time, even in the tradition that I grew up in, it was really more acceptable for females to be helpers and not to be leaders. Um,
Yeah, and not to be challengers. Like, why do we need a baby?
right. Yes.
Why do we need a baby? I
Yes.
love that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that as we have discovered with the harmony model, your two is very true. Your
Yes.
258.
Yes.
Very true of you, Dr. Wright. Very true of you in your mercy and your desire to learn and discover all there is about a subject and to take action in the
Hmm.
world as an eight. And so I wondered, with all of that brilliance around you, how does mercy show up with the
Mm.
Enneagram, and how would you like to unpack that for us? Maybe even style by style or generically with the Enneagram, any way you want to take it.
Oh, yes. Well, I think back to just early on in just an awareness of the eight. I remember talking with my spiritual director about a situation that I was experiencing where a leader had um, just was having some struggles, and I just felt a sense that this person wasn't getting it. He wasn't safe. He wasn't trustworthy. And I remember my spiritual director said, Kelly, as an eight, in situations like this, think of it that you have a keen sense of smell.
Mm.
And so what you're smelling, or what you're sensing that you're smelling, is trash. And this trash needs to be taken out to the curb
Mm.
for the garbage truck to come and take this away. And really that in my true sense of a desire to protect, I wasn't really extending mercy to this situation or to this person. I felt that there was a threat. And so you just need to eliminate the threat. And so it was really helpful in that conversation, to recognize just the idea that I think sometimes in our humanness, that judgment over mercy comes a little bit more natural, especially for me as the 8 and wanting to protect people and systems. But it was so helpful in that conversation just to hear what really resonated in my soul, which was instead of throwing the trash out, it's engaging in loving conversation, engaging in more of a sacred space with God about boundaries, this not all or none kind of reactionary kind of approach.
Yeah, we can really just practice cutoff very easily.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what about 9s? How do 9s experience mercy?
I think about for 9s, it's said that out of all the numbers, they might hold the most anger, and, just being willing to have some self mercy and an awareness, I think, to engage and even ask the question, what am I angry about today? Because I think it would be very surprising to them.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. Just what am I angry about today?
Yes.
Yeah. And then what about 1s? How would 1s experience mercy?
I think, for just the goodness that one so long for in the world and in self, I think it's just this real space of, I guess I'd say just really receiving the goodness of God and also receiving the goodness that they are, or that they bring into the world. I just think of, for the ones, the exhaustion of just, as soon as something feels like it may be good enough and then it's not, or there's something else. But, maybe just that space of just receiving the goodness of God, receiving the goodness that they bring.
There's a great song out right now. Uh, I am good and you are loved is the line. And I, and of course it's capital I, as in God. I am good and you are loved.
Yeah.
But I like to sing God is good and I am loved. Or even if for a 1 to sing I am good and I am loved.
Yes.
Be a really merciful practice. Yeah. Any thoughts on the 2 since you've spent so much time in that?
Yes. I think for the 2, just this space of self-mercy, self-compassion, because I think the beautiful gift that 2s give is a compassion and a mercy for others, and yet really having a difficulty extending that to self because, they are so outward focused. They're often, they often see themselves without need and maybe often see themselves without the need of mercy, even though we all need it. But, just there's no space for self-reflection. Yeah.
Okay, as you'd be surprised, I'm thinking, oh, mercy, mercy me. I think there is this, need to just bring it right on in here for 2. Mercy.
Yes.
How about 3s? Help me, Dr. Kelly.
Yes. Well, as we think about 3s, I was talking to a 3 last night in a little group I'm in, and someone that was just coming to terms with being a 3. And that moment when you think you're a number like I experienced, and then you actually come face to face with your true number, that can be painful. And just once again reminded of the just the real desire that threes have just to be loved, but so often feels like that love is conditional. And so this avoidance really of failure, because if I fail or if I mess up or if something doesn't just flow just right, then I'm not loved or I'm not acceptable. So I think that space of mercy, I think so much for a three is just holding themselves, whether reflecting in the past or, where you might find yourself today, is just that space of just embracing those parts of the story where failure was a theme, but not using that as a hammer to beat self up with, but again, just sitting under God's great love and mercy. I reminds me of this quote. I'm going to look. I wrote this in my journal this week. Richard Rohr's Preparing for Christmas little Advent guide is just incredible. It's like just those daily nuggets. But he says, there is probably no other way to understand God's nature except to daily stand under the waterfall of divine mercy and then become conduits of the same flow.
Lovely. That's beautiful. And how
Yeah.
important for threes right now when they're in their cave and can't get out there and produce, right?
Right. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. The train has stopped.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
and yet I think too, just as we're talking about the heart triad, for the 2, 3s, and 4s, how easy it is maybe to be conduits of it to others, but to know that we have to create this space for our own shower, our own experience of standing under the waterfall. Like oxygen, we're breathing it in, we're taking it in so we can breathe it out.
So good. How
Yeah.
about our fours? Would you
Yes.
just reiterate that and say, get under the shower fours?
I think so. I think also, you know, the beauty of the authentic four, but just that struggle with envy, and so I think, yeah, it may be seeing themselves under that waterfall, in just this beautiful natural state of, maybe even like a shower, where you don't go into a shower dressed or all spiffied up, or you go in authentically you. It is, I think, that space of, I don't know, it feels reflective of Adam and Eve before the fall. They were just so authentically themselves in God's presence. And so I think opportunities for fours to do that are so life-giving.
Yeah, before shame, right? And
Yes.
so, yeah, and so when we move into the headspace with 5s, 6s, and 7s, how might they receive mercy?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, anytime we can move from the head into an experience, for our dear friends in the head triad, and I think that space for the 5, because this is really their time, this pandemic, even though it comes with so many struggles, I'm sure for many of the 5s, being home and just not having to engage out a lot, many of them are more introverted, but maybe looking for ways to just give themselves, again, that self compassion and mercy of, especially when they don't know something. There's so much that is out there to know. And I think with all the technology and all the information at our hands, I just think where that can be, maybe having part of it that's life-giving for the 5, but also can feel like it's this never-ending, endless pursuit, because the last thing they would want is to be able to say, I don't know. But maybe for a 5, it's sitting with God and asking, show me what I might be questioning that it's okay just to not pursue. Maybe that would be compassionate and merciful.
Resting in the cloud of unknowing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
How about our beautiful sixes that
Oh, yes, our dear, loyal, and faithful. I just wonder if God might have an experience for our six friends, of just seeing themselves held in his merciful hands. Um, I don't know. I'm just sensing an image that's different than that waterfall.
yeah.
For the six, it may not feel safe to stand under the waterfall. Like it may feel threatening, but maybe it's just picturing God's strong arms holding them. Um, and so not having to rely on self or others for that. Um, can I read another quote I'm thinking of too,
Yeah,
Claire?
please.
Let me pull it up on my phone here. I was reading this week. This is from Henry Nouwen's The Return of the Prodigal Son.
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but if there's a great quote, I just take a picture of it. And so
Okay.
I'm just reminded of it to pull up as we're visiting. But so Henry Nouwen, what a gift. He writes in this, The Return of the Prodigal Son, here is the God I want to believe in, a father who from the beginning of creation has stretched out his arms in merciful blessing, never forcing himself on anyone, but always waiting, never letting his arms drop down in despair, but always hoping that his children will return so that he can speak words of love to them and let his tired arms rest on their shoulders. His only desire is to bless.
Mm.
So maybe for our friends who are six is just seeing themselves as that little child, and he's the almighty dad just desiring to bless, and his arms are outstretched and this tireless desire to just show mercy and to bless.
Yeah, or even like that mother, oh, how I
Hmm.
long to gather you and pull you up in
Yes.
my arms like a mother. And
Hmm.
there's um, that sense of reliance and not having to take care of all that is happening and being held. I love that, Kelly.
Yes.
And then I don't know if you know a seven or not, but you might have something to say mercifully to a seven.
Oh, mercy, mercy. Oh, yes. My dear sweet husband as just a beautiful reflection of the seven. I think about recently I was talking with a group that I'm in as we're doing the Ignatian exercises together, and a phrase came up about the fear of joy.
Mm,
So this idea that things might be going really well, you know, um, we may find ourselves feeling hopeful or joyful about something, but that lingering kind of gnawing thought in the back of your mind, like when's the shoe going to drop, or when's the rug going to get pulled out from underneath me? And so I think for sevens, uh, really experiencing that mercy of God not being the kind of parent that pulls the rug out, you
mm,
know,
mm,
that the joy of the Lord is our strength.
mm,
And, and maybe even that boundary too of experiencing uh, the joy of the Lord,
mm,
period. Because I know the sevens are such in pursuit of all the possibilities that joy has to offer, with all the things in the world. And not to say we can't experience joy in the world, because I think God has given us many gifts. But I think sometimes, again, just like all the numbers, we can get it flip-flopped.
mm,
And we tend to think, like, for example, for the seven, I'll be loved and known and accepted if I just find the joy in the world, or a joy in more. But
mm,
we know, again, that's like filling a cup that has no bottom,
mm,
and so I think that compassionate invitation for the seven is just um, that experience of being with the Lord and just experiencing the joy of the Lord,
mm,
whether that is in nature, or whether that is in another creative expression. That's where, like you said, with the harmony triads, it's a beautiful experience when sevens can go to the four.
Oh my goodness.
Mm,
It's a gift. And,
yes.
Kelly, I've seen lots of four in your husband. And then,
Yes.
and then I get to hear about the new way you're living in the world right now. And, I always put links for people to connect with the friends that we've talked to. And I am just really impressed with the fact that you've brought together your world in such a way in this moment as a therapist, as a spiritual director, as a pastor, as a beautiful human being that has so much 2, 5, 8 energy happening. And what are you doing right now for, can I just give a spoiler alert, veterans, because that might just get everybody to stop in these final minutes we have together.
Yes. Well, I am now a part of a team, a faith and community team at Veterans United Home Loans. So you can check out veteransunited.com, or specifically you could check out our team. It's vufaith.com. But this incredible company that I'm a part of here in Columbia, Missouri, really just the driving force of our company is helping veterans with their home loans. And so, and then within our team, we're able to then be able to just walk with employees and families that may be, pursuing and having questions about faith, or even if they are people of faith, being able to walk alongside them as they grow in their relationship with the Lord. We've got, other teams in our company too, that look at diversity and lots of different things. But this just feels like a position that I was made for, and getting to connect people to resources. And this is another exciting thing. So after the first of the year, we're going to be rolling out a 10-week video series on the Enneagram, because the Enneagram, with our young population of employees here, we hire a lot of younger adults. They are so enamored with the Enneagram. And so I am so excited about continuing conversations or beginning conversations about the Enneagram, here in our company. But yes, I'm just so grateful for this company. And and even in November, so I just started the 1st of November, and on Veterans Day, we had a promotion that anytime someone tweeted, "Thanks for your service" to veterans, that our company donated, put money aside for each of those tweets. Well, throughout the day, we're just seeing the numbers rolling. And, it was over $2 million that then was donated and actually paid off several veterans' mortgages with those donations. Yes.
And so people can connect with, you'll give me all the links and I'll be able to put that
Yes.
there, whether they're veterans or families of veterans that might want to check in and see, services and resources. Because you've been a therapist, you've also got other resources to help people with, well, let's just say, you name it. And and if you can't do it, you'll let them know where to discover help. And Kelly, thank you for bringing us your merciful, powerful, and wise presence today. And we are, Scott and I are really grateful to know you and to be able to connect people with you,
Yes.
the good things you're doing in the world. So,
well, thank you so much, Claire. We just, Hartley and I love you and Scott, and I am just so thrilled that you are part of my story of just being able to connect that, yes, there's a lot of two in me, but deep down, I just appreciate that, that seeing that you extended to me, and what a gift that was to just be really invited to the affirmation of being an 8. So thank you for having me. I just pray blessings over you and your family for Christmas, and just so grateful for this time together.
Thank you. Merciful Advent to you, my friend.
And you.